I've said this countless times, and I'll say it again. I am a huge AV nerd, and I am obsessed with Dolby Atmos and all the tech, and I was really compelled to make this video. I don't know why I'm doing this, nobody seems to talk about, but I am, because I'm a nerd. Hey, what's up guys, this is KDCloudy and let's talk about Dolby Atmos again. So yeah, Apple started rolling out Dolby Atmos and also lossless audio on Apple Music in international markets. Still not in India though, for some reason, and it's supposed to come next month, but I just couldn't wait. I was just getting too impatient. So I just jumped through some hoops and got myself a new Apple ID. Got a US Apple Music subscription. I just wanted to try it out so bad, and I did. I finally got my hands or ears on. That's weird. I finally listened to Dolby Atmos for music on my AirPod Pros, whatever, and I'll leave my judgment and my opinions for the later part of this video. If you don't know what Dolby Atmos for music is, it's exactly what it sounds like. 3D surround effects while you're listening to music on headphones. And it's just that. And the general consensus is basically that it's a gimmick, or it sounds very underwhelming. And it's the same old routine which I've seen reiterating over and over again throughout Twitter threads, throughout subreddits, and YouTube videos as well. And that's exactly what I did not want this particular video to be. I did not want to go through the same old routine, you know, explaining the tech with some fancy tech buzzwords and just going through a few tracks and concluding with the same ice cold take. I just didn't want to do that. Like, where's the fun in that? Music is very subjective. It's very personal, more than any other piece of media. And you know, you put on headphones, you're listening to your favorite music, you're in your own world, there is just nobody to interrupt you. It's a different vibe. And I mean, at the risk of sounding cheesy, I mean, that's the truth. And everyone has a different take and a different interpretation and a different meaning when it comes to music, and a different sensation, different feelings when they listen to music. And this topic, it's like, I mean, I like music, I love music, and this entire thing is like a perfect intersection of technology and music, and I really wanted to put some care over this and explaining it and making a video about it. So yeah, I don't know why I dragged that out too long, but yeah, the thing is that if you want to learn more about Dolby Atmos for music, we need some more context. We need some more context about stereo sound. We need some context about technology and music. And if you want some more context, we have to travel back in time. And if you're talking about music and history, we of course need to talk about the Beatles. The reason why we're talking about the Beatles on a tech channel is because not only have they aged well culturally, of course they have, but also technologically as well. They have undergone so many changes as the way, you know, in different formats. We've had vinyl records to CDs, you know, they have been played on iPods, and now they're streamed digitally on Spotify and of course Apple Music. But it's not just the way we listen to the music, we listen to the Beatles that has changed, but also the way they sound. which has also changed. There have been countless remasters and re-releases to keep up with the modern standards of quality, and that's exactly why if you look up any Beatles song on Spotify or Apple Music, you'll find at least 2 or 3 different variants of the same song. And you know, these remasters, they focus on increasing and improving the quality to, you know, fit better modern standards, like I said, but also more importantly, they made the jump from mono to stereo. The thing is that out of the 12 albums they ever released, only 2 of them were actually recorded in true stereo. Rest, all of their 10 albums were upmixed and remastered 30 years later without involving the actual band itself. If you listen to any of the old first stereo upmixes, you can actually tell the difference. For example, Eleanor Rigby from Revolver, the album, if you listen to the original mono mix, it's pretty good. It's got that punch to it, and it sounds a little old, but of course it's the original. Now if you listen to the first stereo master, which was released in the 1990s, it's a little weird. McCartney's vocals go from the right channel to both the channels, and there's just severe hard panning, and the transitions aren't so smooth. But to be honest, that's not the way I would personally listen to my music. And probably they agreed, because 25 years later in 2015, with the remastered One album, featured a new version of Eleanor Rigby with a much more balanced mix and centered vocals, and personally that's the version I prefer to listen to even today. And the thing is that the original stereo releases of the last 2 albums, which were recorded in true stereo, especially the tracks Get Back and The End from Abbey Road, they are still to this date, without any remasters, sound the best stereo mixes in the entire Beatles catalog. And that's simply because they were intended to be recorded, mixed that way in true stereo by the Beatles themselves. And that goes on to tell how much of an impact artistic intent can have. Okay, so what do we actually learn from this entire music history lesson? Well, first, of course, artistic intent is important, but secondly, working with new technology is hard. I can imagine the producers and audio engineers from the 80s and 90s trying to figure out a good way to upmix mono tracks to stereo tracks, and that wasn't really a solved problem. And if you take a look, that recent remasters of like the Rolling Stones, they sound much better because the technology and the prowess of upmixing to stereo has improved so much. And I think that's the problem which we are facing right now as we jump from stereo to Dolby Atmos. Okay, now we're done with the music history lesson. That's enough pretentiousness for one video. And now what I'm gonna do is get back on track, get back and actually talk about Atmos for music. And what I'm gonna do is discuss the tracks and mixes artist by artist, because I talked about how important it is. And the first ever Atmos mix I ever heard for music was Ariana Grande's 7 Rings. And that was not even on Apple Music, it was on my old OnePlus 8 Pro running Tidal. And I was A/B testing with Tidal and Spotify back to back, and I just hated it. I hated it, and I immediately thought that Dolby Atmos for music is not for me. And the mistake I made back then was I judged the entire feature based on one single song. And the truth is that the song itself was kind of trash. I mean, not trash. The Atmos mix was something which is not that great. And the vocals were underwhelming, and everything just feels too spaced out. It just loses all its energy. And that same particular flaw where the vocals go down and it's missing that stereo energy, you can find that on, you know, other leading tracks as well, including The Weeknd and Blinding Lights as well. So the thing is that it's kind of a shame actually, because this same thing, the same flaw is repeating over and over again. And the worst part is that all of these mediocre sounding Atmos mixes are on top of Apple's made for spatial audio playlist. I have no idea why they're there, but it's there, and it doesn't sound that great, including, Save Your Tears, which features both The Weeknd and Ariana Grande. So I'm guessing like the same team of people are working on mixing both their albums. So yeah, these are a few artists which don't really have that great of an Atmos mix. But if you want to listen to some quality tracks, I have made this playlist called Better Than Stereo. I'll leave it linked down below. And I just went over and over again. Let's talk about Billie Eilish for a second. Billie Eilish's tracks, there is a certain consistency to them, and the main thing is that they carry over that stereo energy, which is very important if you listen to your music a lot, and if anything is off, you'll immediately be able to tell. And Billie Eilish is one artist who's like across all the albums, that stereo energy is still there, and as a bonus you get those occasional surround sound effects in this particular track, as well as some of the other tracks, as well as No Time to Die, which I'm really excited for. And yeah, all of these have a certain sense of consistency to them, and overall it makes for a pretty subtle and a tasteful mix, which is awesome, and that's all I'm asking for. And the same subtle and tastefulness you can find across other female artists as well, like Selena Gomez. All of her Dolby Atmos albums have that, they carry over that stereo energy, and as a bonus provide you that like occasional surround sound Atmos effects in the height channels and the rear channels. You can feel it all. If you want something else, if pop is not your thing, then Logic's last album has a very excellent Atmos mix. The vocals are like behind you, and the narration is coming all over you, and the beats are all over you, and it's all around you basically. And it makes good use and pretty sporadic use of the height channels, which is also pretty amazing. And there are a couple of very excellent tracks which I've added on the playlist as well. Also, if you want to listen to the best Atmos track, this is it. Boom by Tiesto and Seven. This is like, whoever made this just went total apeshit about all the Atmos tracks. I mean, if you listen to this, the sound stage is so like expansive, and there's always something happening in the height channels or the rear channels, and things constantly panning left and right, and everything is just so dynamic. And like the other songs I talk about, they usually have like a more static mix. Things are coming from all around you, but they are not moving. In this, that like everything and something is constantly moving, and you get that sense. Now the thing is that this is still like too into your face, like the old stereo mixes which were hard panning everything. It's cool, it's super demo worthy, but it's not something I would listen to on the daily. So yeah, all these artists and songs I talked about, they sound very good on Dolby Atmos, plus there are a few others. And the thing is that, like I said, if you're not really into pop, you don't really have that many options, because the thing is that only the top tier mainstream artists are the ones who have access to the new tools to master in Dolby Atmos. So yeah, and there's also like a genre subjective thing, something like rock, Fall Out Boy, Uma Thurman, and Immortals. It's a good mix on paper, but if you listen back and forth to the stereo mix and the Dolby Atmos mix, the Dolby Atmos mix lacks it just lacks that energy. And for something like rock, you need that energy, you need everything to be squished together, so it just hits you get that adrenaline rush. And with the Dolby Atmos mix, I just don't. It just doesn't sound that exciting. Also, one more neat trick is to look out for music which have appeared in movies, because movies usually are mastered in Dolby Atmos. And like musicals, for example, so prime example, Shallow from A Star Is Born, which came out like 3 years ago in 2018. This has a very nice Atmos mix. The vocals are very nicely separated, they're pretty dynamic, it's a wide sound stage, the instruments are very well separated, and there are bits of crowd applause in between, which occupy your rear channels, and it just sounds amazing overall. Then In the Heights, which is a new movie which came out recently. I haven't watched it yet, but it's a musical, and there are a bunch of tracks which take advantage of your height channels, your rear channels, and have that dynamic-ness, if that's a word, and just overall sounds very nice in Dolby Atmos. But yeah, apart from these two movies, I didn't find any other movie soundtracks in Dolby Atmos, and I would love to see them add more of them, especially just pure orchestratic soundtracks like from Hans Zimmer. I would love to listen to Hans Zimmer's Man of Steel soundtrack in Atmos. That would be amazing. And that's the point, right? That's the difference. The movie industry has had Dolby Atmos for a while now, and it's a pretty well established standard over there, whereas for the music industry, it's still relatively a new technology, like I discussed in the Beatles scenario. And it could take a while for producers and audio engineers to adapt to this new workflow, adapt to the new tools and the software, and make better mixes over time. Or unless artists suddenly become very passionate about Dolby Atmos and start mixing and intending to record and mix and master their tracks, like keeping this format in mind, which I doubt will happen. I mean, the Beatles didn't even care about stereo until the late 60s, and I don't even think that any artist knows what the hell Dolby Atmos is unless they are paid to do a commercial. Honestly, I haven't listened to enough tracks of different genres or anything which is not pop to actually make up an opinion. I mean, it's fine, but really the future and the potential of this feature totally depends upon what type of mixes artists bring and deliver. And do I think it's a revolutionary feature as it was like that jump from mono to stereo? No. For it to be like truly revolutionary as the jump from mono to stereo, it should be available on all streaming platforms and not just Tidal or Apple Music. It should work with any pairs of headphones, not just AirPods. And it should be, more importantly, it should be more accessible to artists, because this is of course a royalty based licensed technology, Dolby Atmos, and there are only like 10 studios in the world which will master and mix Dolby Atmos tracks for you. And unless you are Ed Sheeran or some big shot artist who has access or can go to Abbey Road Studios, you're pretty much out of luck when it comes to mixing and making music in Dolby Atmos. And that's kind of a bummer, because this entire thing is so locked in and not really available to everyone. And unless that gets solved, I think it's still like a cool thing which will stay on Apple Music for a while. I don't really think it'll have as much of an impact unless good music and good proper mixes arrive and it becomes more ubiquitous, like I said. That's basically it. That's all I have to say about Dolby Atmos for music, and I'll leave some technical details, some technical notes in the pinned comment down below. I'm just too exhausted to talk about more stuff. Will I switch from Spotify to Apple Music because of this? Probably not. I'm just too locked into the Spotify ecosystem, and all my music is there. It's just too difficult to switch at this point. So yeah, I'll just probably live without Dolby Atmos for music. But yeah, all links will be down below in the description, including the playlist link I talked about, and of course my Spotify profile will also be down below if you actually want to see my core playlist collection. Yeah, and also follow me on Twitter. What else? Yeah, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.